All right, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. It is episode number 861. It is recorded on Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. And tonight only, I am your host, Josh Waldreth.
I am merely Jeremy Hellstrom.
I am Brett Van Spoonberg.
I'm Kent Burgess.
I'm Sebastian Peak.
Sebastian's not feeling so chipper. Of course, sore throats will do that to somebody. So I'm
eating wood chips. You shouldn't be eating wood chips anymore either.
You know, the best part about me hosting is I can monologue over Jeremy.
Yeah, you know what? I should just give you the power. I'll send you the vMix license. You have the power.
Just
to
do
everybody.
To the mute.
Yes.
You know what? Who likes us on Patreon? I'm guessing not many. Maybe a few.
There's a handful of people that do, and occasionally I dip into the Patreon archives and pull out a couple of helpful folks' names that we want to continue to thank. Thank you so much for continuing to support us. So in this week, in the random assortment of Patreon folks who have been helping us out is Russell G., the ever-loving Fish Sticks. I think we all remember Fish Sticks. G. Mo, Tech Junkie, and I don't know how many Jake P's we have, but we have at least one. We have at least one Jake P. So thank all of you. Much appreciated.
Thank you. And no, seriously, thank you.
Thank you. We all love fish sticks.
Yeah, and Tech Junkies.
Fish sticks are pretty good.
No, they're bad.
I would eat
They're
fish
bad
sticks again.
They're just absolutely filled. I mean, have you ever taken a fish stick apart and just counted the parasites that are laying in the flesh?
It's called protein, Josh.
Yeah, as long as they deep fry the parasites, it's gonna be fine.
It's fine.
Speaking about
the
deep fry,
makes you skinny.
Yeah, I could use that. It's the old GLP-1.
Yeah, the original.
Yeah. So anyway, nobody's going to introduce this to me, so it's going to be me. And apparently I had food, and I hope he has a picture of it. I think what I had last week on Thursday. And let me tell you some bad news right now. Born & Barn is going to be closed for the next several weeks because they are doing massive maintenance and redoing the entire floors. But I believe on last Thursday, I had the Cowboy Joe burger, and it was a little odd. This one was made a little bit interesting. When they smashed the patty, I mean, they really smashed the patty. It was essentially the size of a waffle, and it way overflowed the bun. The buns were good, nice, fluffy, held their firmness. They toasted them nicely, so they weren't really moist or anything like that. It was nice. The jalapenos they had a good bite to them. You can see all those seeds, and they put plenty on them. The bacon was perfectly done. The cheddar cheese was fantastic, and the Cowboy Joe sauce, of course, was very tasty. So even though it was not the most visually appealing burger that I've ever had, it was still good. And the fries were good. Look at those things. They're perfectly done. Nicely seasoned. Yeah. It was all made me happy for one day out of my life. But you know what else makes me happy?
Yes.
When Sebastian posts a review of a reinvigorated Intel after falling on their face multiple times over the past couple of years. I mean, sure, that 14th gen was supposed to be a great victory for them, but it turned out to be, holy crap, my chips keep dying. But this isn't that. No. Intel Core Ultra 7 Plus.
Yes, don't forget the plus, because it was already Ultra. And you'd think you can't go any further than Ultra, but you can if you add plus to the end of it. Ultra 7 270K plus.
Wow.
There's nowhere to go from here, is there? I guess it could be plus plus and then plus plus plus.
I mean, they did that with their process technology, so sure.
It wouldn't be the first time.
So they could add GT or XLS or something like that, but
The double plus
TI.
That's Thai.
Oh, no, it's not. It's never
So,
tie.
what's special about this? What's new
Josh,
and
It
improved?
doesn't suck.
I'm glad you asked that question, Josh, because the Core Ultra Plus series, they have new features, as this slide indicates. Up to 7,200 megatransfers per second now supported, not via overclocking, just native. I don't know if there's any JDEC DDR5 7200 out there with like 100 cast latency, but it supports it.
Up to XMP 8000. Come on.
Yes.
That's some mega transfers there.
Die to die is up 900 megahertz. The DRAM and memory controller up 400 megahertz. So 100 megahertz faster with the all E-core, 200 megahertz faster with the all P-core boost. So they're doing things with boost. They're doing things with their core-to-core communication. They have enhanced uncore frequencies now. But a big focus here, besides just the value proposition, which is really what they were talking about when they talked to media, is all of these essential technologies. Their binary optimization tool is something new. It's an optional thing you can check inside the application optimization. I haven't played with that yet, but in theory, you could run this for your favorite game and actually have better performance in a way that you can't do that with any other competing CPU, I guess is the theory. It reminds me of the Pentium, because with Pentium, they made a huge deal out of compiler optimization for that launch. And they were working with all these different companies, including a little company called id Software, I believe, to make sure that the latest and greatest shooters like Quake would be better on Intel than anyone else through software optimizations, compiler optimization.
Well, didn't they have also, a fully pipelined x87 floating point unit? Anyway.
Yeah, but the software had to take advantage of it, so they were really worried about that.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. Anyway, moving along.
Yes,
Sorry.
let's move quickly along. So if you look at the numbers, if you look at the specifications of the 270K Plus, you will probably notice that it is extremely similar to the Core Ultra 9 285K. You're going to see that in every chart from every website out there. Here we tested the 285K in Cinebench. The multi-core score was 9622. The new one with the same memory, 9971. If you move all the way up to 7200 memory with lower cast latency, you get to 10,000. Scaling is pretty minimal in any kind of gaming tests. We're talking 3 FPS.
Yeah, but overall, are you saying that lower number is bigger?
Yes, that's the weird thing about this launch is that the 270K Plus is faster than the Ultra 9 285K, which launched
why did they do this?
It launched at almost $600. This one is launching at $300. So it's launching at half the price, and it's slightly faster. So this is all about positioning. And I should have tested a Ryzen 7. If I had all my stuff here, I would have done some retesting because not just a Ryzen 7, like a non-X3D part and then a Ryzen 5. Mm-hmm. Because especially the 250K Plus, that's a really interesting part at 199. We talked about the upcoming processors last week. And there are sites out there, of course, that have tested everything. So I'll switch over to Tech Power Up to look at the Core Ultra 5 here. Because at 199, you're getting more cores than the previous 245K. And it's $100 less. That thing was a $300 processor. Let's look at some overall game tests at 1080p with a 5090. So they say it's about 5% faster overall. So barring any price increases, this is over $100 less for, again, slightly better performance.
Look at this, right up there with the 14.7. And what is it, 9700X it retails around 280 now? 280, 290, 300? So it's beating stuff around for $100 less. Well, maybe not beating, but at least matching.
Let me pull up their 270K.
Yeah, if your gaming is not your primary use, it's sort of something else you do with your computer. And if you are doing a lot of productivity, this is a pretty compelling little processor.
Yeah.
For the price. $200, that's a really good price for something that will do, multi-threaded tasks at this level and efficiency.
Yeah. And these really are very
If
good.
DDR5 weren't unattainable right now, yeah.
That's the thing. Like the go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. With the say, like, against the 9700, sure, you're going to match it in gaming performance, but the single threaded performance of those is still really high up there. I mean, if you look at your single thread Cinebench, I mean, it's a massive improvement over anything kind of AMD has. So, the last gasp of AMD is really the mega threaded with the R9, 9950 is the top end one. But then, you're looking at, the single thread stuff is just, it's leaps and bounds higher.
I was going to say a lot of suppliers are looking at literally doubling the price of business laptops nowadays. And so seeing this come in, it's not only better than the previous gen, Arrow Lakes is cheaper, which is not something you expected to see. So it's interesting, and I really hope that it hits the pipeline very quickly because, DDR5 and an SSD are going to be your main expense. But if you can shave $300 off of the processor, that's pretty damn nice. That's really attractive.
Especially if you game at higher resolutions. If you're a 4K gamer, if you're like 3440 by 1440, then there's almost no difference. I know the 1% lows will be a little bit better with the X3D part, but if you're spending $300 on the CPU and you're getting, within 5 to 10% of the performance in gaming, but then you have significantly better multi-threaded performance than an X3D part, just because you have more threads. So it's just, you'd have to look at non-X3D, Ryzen 9 as a better comparison, but that's significantly more money too. So, and the boards aren't crazy expensive. Obviously, the demand doesn't seem to be as high for Intel anymore on the enthusiast side, but they only support DDR5. It's if you get 14th gen, you can actually put it in a Z790 board that takes DDR4 and have good performance with half the RAM cost.
Well, DDR4 is creeping up too, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. It's more than double what it was, but it's still not as crazy as DDR5.
It's still not anywhere near as bad.
Right.
And while I am excited for this improvement in this generation of Intel processors, this, as we've mentioned, the market prices of everything else right now are going to make this a difficult adoption. But also, the other problem is there's no upgrade path. This is the last of this socket. Mm-hmm. They'll be moving to a new socket at the end of this year. So, but
it'll be the end of the E's and P's too, won't it? From what we're hearing,
I don't know.
Yeah. We're not entirely sure yet when they're. No. I mean, they've talked about going to all P core, but we don't know when that exactly is going to be. So AMD's going to have to lower their prices, and they have so far this week. I think we've seen the 9800 X3D drop down about $20 or $30 on sale. But I would imagine that once this kind of gets rolling, that they may see a little bit of a dent. I mean, it's a really good part for an extremely competitive price.
Amazon's got the big spring deal on that 9700X, Josh, that you were talking about, down to $264. $264.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Don't buy it used. That's just bad.
Oh, look, you can get a keyboard, Norton VPN, and Crimson Desert game bundled. That's about $100 worth of stuff. So,
Well, it's funny because I was going to say, if Intel can work some sort of magic to bundle DDR5 at a slightly reduced cost with one of these Core Ultra Pluses, they would actually probably sell a huge chunk of them.
Yeah.
I said that in my review that, if this is nice for gamers, it's $200 off, which helps subsidize the cost of DDR5. But if they just went back to making memory like they did before they got into this whole processor thing, then that would help us a lot more.
Yeah. Buy back that plant from Micron in Utah.
Right.
Do it now. And one other thing to consider is, at least Newegg, if you catch them, they do have memory, motherboard, CPU bundles, and they're pretty competitive. So I'm excited to see these things hit, see some interesting bundles come out. Maybe this will help reinvigorate a little bit of the enthusiast group, even though, the industry as a whole has seemingly been dead set on destroying it. So, nice review. Go and read it at PCPer.com. See all of his thoughts and aspirations for the Core i7 270K Plus.
He wishes them all the best.
Yeah. Speaking of Intel, you're not going to believe it. Big Battlemage came to town. Finally. We've been expecting this for months and months and months. Months and months and months. We thought it would come out in a consumer form, but alas, Intel kind of came to their financial senses. And even though it's a bummer for enthusiasts like you and I, people who actually, kind of dig buying Intel cards for some strange reason, they did their big Battlemage with the Arc Pro B70 and B65. Both come with 32 gigs of GDDR6 and around a 225 TDP? No, 70. No, hang on. I'm sorry. 200
up to 290.
To 290. Yep.
The Intel branded card is 230 watts. It says.
Mm-hmm.
How much is the one from Sparkle? Because they're a partner, apparently.
Yeah. And there was another group that I had retweeted today. I can't remember who that was. I could probably look it up if I wanted to. But the B70 is a really solid looking unit. It unfortunately they're still using a older process node. So it doesn't have the performance and the density that others from AMD and NVIDIA does. But what they do make up for is really solid overall performance, good memory density, and a very inexpensive price. You can get the B70 for less than $1,000. If you remember, they have enhanced RT processors. They've got tensor cores. Against the AMD 7000 series, the B580 performed very, very well in those kind of applications because they've got the native hardware and really good software, and just the work that the Intel compiler folks have done in the drivers, that it performs really, really, really well. So they're making higher margins on this. Otherwise, it would probably be a sub $500 part. But at double that, at almost $1,000, they're doing a little bit better. And hopefully they sell a ton of these, because Intel needs, the bottom line to be met. And it would be great to see Celestial hit one day.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anybody out of have any other?
I mean, even the cheaper one of the two cards has 32 gigs of VRAM. Nobody except NVIDIA has.
Now, hopefully this does well, and they realize Celestial could be both gaming and workstation.
Yeah, it'll be good. But I'm glad it's finally out there. I guess Wendell got one. I don't know how much in-depth testing that he's done, but go and maybe check out his YouTube channel. He has, of course, a slightly insane thumbnail because. Wendell. I'll probably be watching that after here, but it only came out today and have not had the time. See, look at him. Look at Wendell. He's drowning in Battlemage.
You know, for a guy who started out not showing his face hidden behind dozens of monitors.
Yep. Now he's out and proud. Which, speaking of proud, ARM is now making chips. Being the previous royalty IP person, sell you designs, license those designs, license the architectural license. Is that redundant?
Yes.
No, because it's a verb and a noun.
Yes.
Go with it anyway. Yeah. So I'm going to move with it. No, they are producing a 136 core AGI CPU. So over the past couple of years, the focus on AI stuff has been primarily GPUs. GPUs have been kind of the bottleneck. They've been the muscle behind a lot of that. But as we've gone to more agentic type AI and different ways of kind of skinning that cat, CPUs have come back to the forefront. And in fact, we're facing a significant shortage of CPUs in the data center because while it's great to be able to dispatch all of this work to GPUs, something's got to dispatch all of the work. And the CPUs are basically running the show. So ARM decided to get in on the hardware with their first AGI CPU. So this is a 300 watt TDP part, 136 cores, runs at 3.7 gigahertz, which is pretty quick. Something that I had mentioned on Twitter, but people haven't really talked about is, ARM has done really, really good things with their memory controllers. Because if you think of what they can do on their small 5 watt SoCs with low powered LPDDR5 or whatever.
5?
Yeah, it's 5. They have really good memory performance, very granular. Apparently, they're not high speed, wide, dual channel, wide memory buses. They have worked really hard to keep latencies low, do smart cache work and prefetch, and so now they've got the power to be able to do whatever they want. So their overall performance in memory operations from an ARM architecture chip is really good. So now they're going up against Ampere. Is that Ampere? I can't remember all of the different ARM
Ampere
guys who do these, really large CPUs. But they're now a big competitor. They're competing with NVIDIA, even though NVIDIA, Jensen Huang came onto their show yesterday and said, congratulations to ARM on doing this. This is going to be a processor that will take wafer allocation away from some of their partners. So they're royalty business and licensing is okay, but it's not super high margins. Now they're getting into actual product spaces where they can control things a little bit better. And this is a Neoverse V3 based core. Again, there's 136 of them running fast. Extensive work in the inner CPU architecture, the I/O stuff, and cross core communication. Things that when we go to their editors day and we ask them about, they don't want to talk about, because this is kind of the secret sauce of the enterprise class that they've worked with Ampere and others. Amazon, Google, all of these guys use high performance ARM cores for stuff that they build in-house. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do here. It is sampling now. They expect full production by the end of this year. And, they already have a software environment. They've been running, I think, in between a third and a half of the people that work at ARM are all software engineers. And so they've taken this very seriously, from when they needed to have good drivers for all their cell phone and Google Android to what they're doing now in doing a high performance computer with these really large and fast CPUs. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, see how, I mean, a lot of their partners don't have a choice but to stay with ARM because there isn't another licensable. I mean, there's RISC-V or RISC-V or whatever you want to call it. But
Which
they
also made the news this week, but yeah, not as big as this.
Not in the good way. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, yeah, that was that's ARM. They're making chips now, which after 40 years, it's kind of weird.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I mean, a 300-watt TDP on an ARM processor just blows me away. That is not something we could have conceived of a decade ago, maybe not even 5 years ago. It's just not what they were doing. But they know efficiency.
But,
so that 300-watt TDP is going to do a lot more than your NVIDIA one does.
Well, that's debatable.
Because it doesn't have a 300-watt TDP.
Yeah, well, also, when you compare it against x86, I mean, Intel has a 144-core Xeon.
Yeah.
And it is about 270-watt TDP, but it runs a full gigahertz slower than this. So, I mean, ARM has been focused on efficiency and power efficiency for the longest time, and this has, allowed them to do something here pretty interesting.
It's neat. I mean, ARMs aren't necessarily sexy, but they're effective.
Yeah. Speaking of not sexy but effective, Jensen Huang says it's not just AI slop. Take it away.
The gaming community
it's not the
said
kids that are wrong.
Yeah, the gaming community said we don't like it, and Jensen said, "Well, I think you're wrong," because he's insisting that the artists still have complete and total control of the base maps and the base polygons and the base build up, and they're not post processing; they're just enhancing what the artist's intent was. Even though
they're slapping makeup on it.
There's a wide.
What he's saying now. DLSS 5 is just makeup.
There's clearly widespread condemnation. Looking at the examples and that people are Jensen saying your eyes are lying to you. It's not what we're doing. People are perceiving it different. Personally, I'm looking at it going like, yeah, I see what most of the crowd is saying. This is not.
He's literally saying DLSS 5 is not AI slop.
He's saying that.
Giving the artist the tool of AI and the tool of generative AI. But you literally just said it wasn't.
He's saying slop. It is not a post process at any level. He says it's all about building from the geometry on out. So it's almost semantics at this point by saying we're going underneath your texturing and we're going back to your geometry and we're building out from there again. We're not taking what you did and as the end result at like the end of the image generation pipeline and then fixing it from there. No. That would be lipstick. But to us, it's a bit semantics, a bit more like just it looks like lipstick.
So are you saying that every image looks like Chaperone? Except without beating as many children.
If you want it to.
These are just enhancements, Josh. We should stop being so down on it. But one other thing is I believe this caught a lot of the game studios a little bit flat-footed as well. They didn't see this one coming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, that was just a final comment on that.
Yeah, no, out of the blue. But he also mentioned that, you can choose how DLSS 5 modifies it. So it doesn't have to look necessarily like it's someone with an 87 Instagram filters on top of them. You could, for instance, decide to replay Spec Ops: The Line, but make it look more cartoony. So you take a really nasty game with a lot of environmental, and nasty psychological issues, and tunify it to make it funny. I'm sure that there's a lot of game developers for more modern games that are just like, oh no, you should definitely play the new Resident Evil as everyone looks like kawaii people. But apparently the DLSS 5 could possibly do this. So he's literally digging himself a hole as he's trying to dig himself out of one.
Jeremy, if I could just quote Jensen here, let me just say, you could decide not to use it.
So you can turn it off. That's the biggest feature.
Its biggest feature, you can shut it down. You can choose not to use it. Whether I'm not sure who he directed that to, whether that was like an artist level or game developers level or like an end user level. I'm not sure where that switch is really concerned. Whom it may concern, essentially. Yeah.
So is he now, Principal Skinner with a nice leather jacket?
Yes. Yes, he is.
The jacket may look a little better.
Maybe.
I did hear this week that Joan Rivers has been using DLSS 5 for many years.
Damn, that explains a lot.
That does make sense. Thank you for clearing that up.
So you're saying it's been dead for the past decade? Speaking of undead, the FCC hits the big nope button on foreign-built routers. TP-Link is finally getting the hatchet from the FCC.
Except they're trying to build factories within the U.S. so that they can start selling their garbage again.
It's a broadband hammer, Josh. They're saying foreign built routers in the hands of consumers, dangerous, too much danger.
So
consumers have no idea what they're doing.
They're right.
That is true. Okay,
but as usual with any government, they did it in a very strange way. And currently, the only new router that you can buy in the U.S. are certain Starlink Wi-Fi models, which are assembled and in Texas, and a couple of parts are made there, so they technically meet this new requirement.
Now, commercial in Soho is also outside of this.
Doesn't count.
Well. Right, that's right. So,
like Cisco, unaffected
office,
because they don't make consumer stuff.
Ubiquity is actually supposed to be more Soho small business. That's also not part of this ban. Most of their equipment. There's a couple pieces that they do sell, but most.
How about Eero? Is Amazon's Eero? I would imagine that's
that will be banned.
Fine.
I think that falls underneath the problem umbrella. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos is going to be making some phone calls.
Don't worry. This will probably change very quickly.
This was, I believe, a statute or a law that was started a fairly long time ago it'll so far in the future it'll never be a problem. This people figure this out by the time it really comes into play. Well, here we are. The future is now. So we have to deal with it at this point, and that's the real problem here is that you can sell as a company who's making these, you can sell what you have in the country up to a certain whatever the date cutoff is, but there's like a date that's a couple of years in the future, like maybe 18 months or something like that, where I believe support is going to stop for those. It's like they're not allowed to actually patch them anymore. This is a real problem. We're still dealing with. No, that's not going to help. This is not helping.
Definitely
really.
Help.
I mean, somebody got to. This is a great idea. It's not really. I mean, I see what they're trying to do, but this isn't not really going to fix the problem. This isn't it.
I mean, I want to love this. I want to say, hey, this is brilliant.
Stop infecting yourself. Stop infecting yourself. Stop infecting yourself.
But at the same time, it's just like reducing it to just a couple of Starlink routers that you're now allowed to buy, which is just, they're not going to work with everything. And just, no, you're not going to be allowed to patch them because we're assuming that everyone's going to read this law and realize that grandpa's ancient
it's just not going to happen.
Writer needs to go and be replaced with something.
We're past the point of where it becomes a problem. And in fact, in some ways, I think this makes it worse because they're not allowed to patch it. We're already dealing with 5 and 6 year old network devices that are EOL and vulnerable. So we're already dealing with those in the thousands, tens of thousands, and the exposure is just continuing to get worse. And the attack surface gets worse as time goes by. So I don't think this is going to solve the problem. I think, somebody's a great idea. This isn't going to work.
It won't work, but what we need is if you are going to buy a router, you need a license. You need to prove what networking is to a basic degree. Other than that, you get a dumb switch.
Right.
Because dumb switches are fine. You
but they're
can't
not.
do anything.
They don't do NAT. Well, I guess
Yeah, so
maybe
what?
you could.
And
Sebastian threw up an article here about, don't worry, your thermostat's probably still safe, even though it's practically a router.
And as Gentle
what a
Soul
mess.
says, 5 years, no, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, it's a D-Link blue one.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've
Congratulations.
still got some D-Links downstairs. They've been out
Yeah,
of...
no, they're still around.
Netgear, there's a lot of
Yep.
Netgear stuff that's not
I got a US
not young
Robotics
anymore.
somewhere.
How is the WRT community anymore?
I think it's still there. I think you might be able to see a resurgence in pfSense in my opinion, and those cheap,
Probably.
all in one PCs and pfSense preloaded, and go here, run this.
Yeah.
And Pi-hole is always fun.
Pi-hole
You
as
can
well.
do a lot with a Pi.
Yeah, but there's might be rate limited on that on the Pi-hole. Not enough
True,
room
so
for
yeah,
interfaces
then-
as well.
I'll tell you, the average
Then go
consumer
with a new
setting up a
WRT.
pfSense router, that's
I know. I get it.
Yeah. These are
Yeah.
appliances to, I'd say,
Yes.
96% of all Americans. But I was going to say, by the way, Brett, congratulations on commandeering the podcast and turning it into Insecurity Corner.
Oh, you're welcome. It was really no big deal. Josh just delivered it to me on a silver platter, basically with the handoff,
sorry.
and I just took it from
won't
there.
be doing that again.
Nope.
And we didn't even bring up the security issue with TP-Link that was brand
Not
new.
a lot. We'll wait till later. Save
don't
that
worry.
view. We'll be back.
Security Corner Part 2 later on.
Later on. But you know
'Cause
what?
now we're
Everything
doing
is
it
fine.
twice.
It's all fine. Everything is fine because the internet is just going to be all bots from here on out.
Yeah, it's fine.
Bots fighting bots.
Yeah, don't worry. Your traffic no longer matters, because every time you throw in a query to, who's using Google anymore? Like, for goodness sakes, you're using Gemini, you're using Copilot, you're using ChatGPT, right? That's your new search engine. Am I right? So the problem here is, of course, is that you as a researcher are asking questions against Google or whatnot. You're probably only accessing a handful of sites, at a time, but you throw your queries at any one of these LLMs, and they're hitting hundreds or thousands of sites in returning your answer or an attempt to do so, and that is driving the quote unquote bot traffic through the freaking roof. So the more and more, the deeper we get into AI usage in everything, really, why not? It's going to be on the toaster next. But the more that happens, the worse this problem will get, and your actual, human-driven traffic on the internet becomes fractional against bot traffic. Sorry to say, it's like spam for email. Most
you
email
say
spam.
this like it's a new thing, but
Well, it's
there's
not
vastly
that-
more spams
we're not there
than
yet.
any emails.
True.
There are a lot of lonely people out there who they get spam, and it makes them seem like they matter to somebody out there.
Yes.
And these bots, they're going to matter to somebody out there who's lonely. So I say, let them go roughshod across the internet. Let's just shove all the packets that we can that don't necessarily do anything. It'll be
No
fun.
harm will come of this.
None whatsoever. So, Sebastian, I know you're a car enthusiast. Is your car going to need 300 gigabytes of RAM too?
Well, if it's going to drive itself, it certainly will. And that cannot possibly pose a problem in this day and age. What's 300 gigabytes of high-speed memory anyway?
No, it's
$1
still
million.
going to be no problem. Yeah, but you know who's cashing in on this? Have you ever heard of a company called Micron?
Do you know SK Hynix, their quarterly just dwarfed Micron?
Really?
But Micron went from single digits to triple digits in the bazillions of dollars.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, they really did. They went from like 9 to 137 billion or something like that. But I guess SK Hynix is probably doing okay in this market as well.
Well, they sacrificed Crucial to the altar of margins, and we are seeing that. Yeah, 24 billion that they made versus 8 billion a couple of quarters ago. So yeah, the pain is real, and all of these companies are jumping on, and extracting as much investor money as possible, because investor money is what's actually paying OpenAI and all these other startups that have not yet made profits and do not look to anytime in the future. So,
You know what really sucks about this?
It's going to
No,
drive the
what
price
makes
of cars up.
cars-
It's going to drive the
Well,
price
no,
of
I
cars
mean,
up because of the
Don't care about
DRAM.
those.
Because
No,
of the
do you know
memory
what-
chips.
Mostly makes cars.
robots?
Robots.
And you know what robots need a crap load of? So even if
the
you're not
tape, like those big welding guys, those big welding ones, they use the tape from the 80s and they just spool the tape and it does the thing as it's supposed to because it's a repetitive motion. So they don't need memory. They just need 50-year-old tape.
Paper tape.
Yeah.
I hope that actually works, because otherwise, yeah. So even your non-self-driving car will go up in price because the robots will need it. But yes, let's replace them with tape. I want to. We should do an experiment here.
3M is going to make so much money.
Oh, let's get ahead of that.
Yeah.
Invest
now.
You heard it
Invest
here.
now.
Oh, a couple of years ago, Microsoft laid off pretty much their entire human Q&A group. And it has gone swimmingly for them. And Windows 11, now that Windows 10 support has dropped for the majority of people, it is not a popular operating system with the issues that they had and the features that they have promised and not yet delivered upon, or at least not yet successfully delivered upon. And so Microsoft is saying, you know what? We're going to pull back some of our human-capable people from AI and readdress our operating systems, because there are some really big issues there. Jeremy, move along, because I know you're a Microsoft person.
Wait, before he does, though, I just want to point out to
Go.
anybody watching the podcast that this is a still from the 1944 film Gaslight. This is Charles Boyer and Ingrid Bergman, in case you were
You're
curious.
damn right it is.
I actually looked at this story the other day and I couldn't even read it because I just had to stare at Ingrid Bergman for a good 10 minutes.
Longer than was appropriate.
Oh, yeah.
It made her
it was the
uncomfortable, and she was
appropriate
just a photograph. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's been dead since 84.
So she did not use DLSS 5.
No.
Didn't need it.
She looked that way. No, Windows 11, I don't know if you've heard, but it's not as popular as Microsoft hoped it would be. And they have done everything they can to shove Copilot into your face, your snipping tool, Notepad, your search history, and
Printer driver, Excel.
they've suddenly realized that maybe if we gave them a choice, maybe if we didn't enable everything by default, people might like us again. Maybe. So that's what they are going to do with a newer update, is that they're actually going to back up and back off on a lot of the Copilot invasion of your entire life. It didn't work out, and it took them a long time to realize that listening to the weird little insider soap bubbles that loved it was not the way to go, and maybe you should listen to the vast majority of your users who are now starting to switch to alternative lifestyles and operating systems.
Like by that,
that maybe,
yes.
yeah, maybe you might want to just back off a little bit. So they're going to do this. They're going to start getting rid of unnecessary Copilot entry points, otherwise known as...
That's what they call it?
The stuff,
That's,
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Entry points.
I don't think that sounds good at all.
It doesn't,
So when I
but
start
it
using
is.
that, do I have to start singing Moon River?
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you want it to really work, it might help.
Doc in his position.
No, of course, this is only for new installs. So if you're already fully Copilot infected, we have an article on how to remove it, which will make everything better. They also decided that, a bunch of the improvements we made to File Explorer, the thing which everyone constantly uses, maybe completely and totally breaking it and making it lousy was a choice we made that we might want to back off on. So they are going to make File Explorer work more or less, or at least they promise, work more or less like File Explorer used to work in every other single operating system they made. And they're going to let you move your taskbar again. They've decided you are responsible enough to decide whether your taskbar should be at the bottom, the top, the side, totally up to you. It's still going to look like the Apple Dock, but you can fix that. So it just, all of these.
Yeah, but will it bring back the Clash lock the taskbar?
It will not.
Oh.
Because that went with Winamp. And they sort of brought Winamp back, but it's not.
Jolene, she don't like it. She wants
Josh,
to lock the taskbar.
She don't like it.
With the new improved feedback hub, you can make suggestions like that. Because remember, you are their quality control. You are the tester of this beta software. So you can report a problem, make a suggestion, or look at this. You can give a compliment. Ooh. Wow. Aww. Wow, I really like the way that you...
But they're not getting AI. Many of that one.
Thank you for not sandpapering my eyeballs. I appreciate it.
One of the interesting things I've seen about this story is some comments about how the new MacBook Neo might be a driving force behind this, because Microsoft has realized for a while now they would have to be completely stupid not to have realized that 11 was causing a lot of people anger. But they thought, oh, what are people going to do? Go buy an overpriced Apple or go to Linux? No, people aren't going to do that. Then, a lot of the enthusiast community has started really looking seriously at Linux. And a lot of people are switching to Linux. And now Apple has come out with a $600 MacBook that is apparently a really good performer. And Microsoft is going, oh, people may be going to Apple and Linux. We should probably fix this.
Parallels runs on that Neo. So if you really want a Windows app, you can have it. And it coexists on the same pane of glass with your Mac apps.
And you know what? Apple perhaps has not gotten enough credit for their memory footprint.
Yeah, and they use memory compression, so they basically double the effective memory. So
just like Keanu.
Oh
no,
I was muted. But I was going to interject with a comment about this. So did not remember 20 years ago when Vista was absolutely abhorred, and then Apple trots along with their Get a Mac campaign with Justin Long and Jonathan Hodgman, and was it Jonathan?
People did.
John Hodgman. Whatever.
Yeah, it was
John Hodgman. Hodgman. Yeah.
They actually started not massively, but eating into Microsoft's market share just a little bit. That's when I became aware of Mac really for the first time as an adult. Like I would go into a store like a Best Buy and they suddenly had an Apple display. They had Mac Mini with Tiger on it and then Leopard, and people were actually getting really interested in the possibility, because that was what Steve Jobs did at that time, was the bring your own keyboard, monitor, and mouse, and you could buy a Mac for $499. And the perception had always been, well, Apple computers are for the wealthy. They're too expensive.
Or artists or something like that.
Or schools. But then
or
Apple was like, well, you know what? If you have $500, you can have a Mac. And here they are with the Neo, which is basically the Mac, trying to be as disruptive as the Mac Mini was 20 years ago, by hitting this much more aggressive price point, because for $599, you're getting a full-on Mac with a good display, good keyboard and trackpad, and it's kind of like the luxury alternative to a Chromebook, or you could look at it as, well, this is actually just an entry-level Mac, no different from the iMac in the 1990s. Give them some brightly colored, friendly-looking computer alternative to Windows. And if Windows is onerous and it's technically a more advanced and potentially more confusing thing to get into Linux versus Windows for the average user, then the easy alternative is this friendly, colorful Mac that I can go into my local Target and buy for $5.99.
And a Parallels license, and away I go.
If you really want Mac or our PC software, if you're not Windows software, you can do it.
And guess what? Most of your applications that average people use, including Microsoft Office and all the web-based stuff,
Yeah, they're agnostic. They don't care.
It runs on Mac. All the Adobe stuff runs on Mac. In fact, it runs better on the M series Mac. Like I actually edit this podcast on it's a few years old now, but a Mac Studio, like an M2 Mac Studio.
I was going to say that's the rare M2, isn't it?
And it's unbelievable how much faster it is than even the Xeon based system I was editing before. So
the Neo might be an A18 though, not an M.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's
a cell
phone,
but it's fine.
Yeah. But I mean, Mac OS is basically iOS at this point.
It kind of is, yeah.
Merge them.
They kind of did.
Now, before we move on, we do have to discuss the elephant in the room so small that the room is actually almost all elephant, and there's barely any room left to talk about it. Requiring online sign-ins.
Oh.
They still are maintaining this is for your benefit, and we know best. But at this point, even Microsoft's VP, Scott Hanselman, is on the record saying, this is idiotic. This is horrific. We need to get rid of it. You cannot force people to have an online account. You can offer them the chance, but even Apple on an iPhone gives you the chance to set up.
Right,
there.
You can just say skip.
I mean, it will disembowel everything.
Yes.
And you can't.
Yeah, nothing stops you from skipping it during the out of box experience.
Well, apart from finding it. It is.
Well, I mean, on a Mac or an iPhone, you can just say, no, I'll sign into my iCloud account later.
Do it later.
You sure? And you're like, no, no, thank you. And it'll bug you every few days about it, but you can say no. You can't even get into your new laptop with Windows 11 on it without creating an online account, unless you go through some steps. Yes. Which is
and they want to get rid of those steps, but you can't because that would break the entire corporate experience. Because you can't force someone who works for a company to log in with their personal account. You can't break that.
But that's why we have Entra.
Yay!
I thought you were going to say that them blocking yet another one of these registry little hacks.
Well, it falls right in line with that
one.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to fix Windows.
This is what you pay for.
Yep.
This is a bonus. You know what? Your transfer speeds were too high. So we're going to take that away.
You know that?
We're going to give you a more retro experience.
It's for your own good. You didn't want that special NVMe driver that gave you better throughput. You need the default NVMe driver from like 2017.
Which is a SCSI fold down interface. They just layered the NVMe interface on top of their SCSI IO chain, and that is throttling.
Who would have guessed?
It's heirloom quality. But apparently there was a way, either it was native or you had to add it. I'm not really sure exactly the purpose behind or how you got to it. But Windows Server 2025 had this feature in it that was a native driver for NVMe, and it was literally 70 to 80+% faster than the heirloom SCSI folded down drive accessor, and they blocked it. There was a way to make sure that the 2025 server IO was enabled through like 3 or 4 registry keys. No, not anymore. They've made sure that you can't hurt yourself by giving yourself too much speed for free.
Did we mention that this is almost like 100% speed reduction?
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating a bit. It's only like 70 to 80% speed reduction.
Somewhere between 70 to 85%, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Only.
They're making our lives easier by the minute.
They sure
And
are.
speaking of easier by the minute, now it is time for this week's version or something of Insecurity Corner. Take it away, boys.
On the top here, to satisfy the introduction that we should have, this is a story on hackers hitting a company in Iowa that administers essentially in-car breathalyzers.
Okay, I'm curious here because they apparently have a
You've never tried one?
monopoly on in-car breathalyzers that you got to blow into the tube, prove you're not drunk before you can start your car.
You are correct, sir. Except occasionally it will beep at you while you're driving, and you have a limited amount of time to pull over and blow again because you might have a road pop.
Yep. With a name like Intoxilock, what else are you going to build? This is, I don't know if the name came first. Did the name come first, or maybe the product? I don't really know. But anyway, the point here is hackers got into Intoxilock's environment and basically crashed out their database backend. And these devices are phoning home, calling home, essentially. And as Jeremy was talking, they make sure that you can start your car, or they may do a random quiz. They may test you on the road at intervals, and you've got to answer those intervals. And if you don't, depends on the regulations in the state that you live in, you may have to drive with your lights flashing or your horn beeping, or the car will just not start, or it will stop. And so don't worry, this happens.
Taken away the ability to send that data home to say, yes, I'm sober. Please let my car continue to operate.
Mm-hmm. This is it was like up to 10% of the population that has to have these installed have been affected, and it took them like 7 days. It took them like 7 or 8 days to get a fix in place for this once they discovered it, which is dismal, I might add. Especially don't worry, you don't have to go to work for the next 7 days. You can't start your car, kind of thing.
I'm sure the boss will be very appreciative of that.
Yeah. Don't worry. They hired you anyway on your path to recovery. Sorry, I've got a ditch. I can't start my car. Yeah, sad
they
story.
They did finally fix it pretty much earlier this week. So we're talking like almost a week and a bit, 2 weeks that you couldn't drive. They were, and I got to, you make money selling devices to let people who got caught driving drunk drive again. I don't expect you to be good people, but they were. They're like, boom, if you got locked out, we're paying everything to get a tow truck to drag that car to where you can get it replaced and the software updated so that it will work and replace the device if it bricked itself. So, kudos to them. I wish that more companies were like that. Yeah, we screwed up.
Did they pay for Did they pay for the Ubers and the Lyfts to get the people to their jobs?
Who knows?
No, that would have been that would have been a nice move.
Locking their devices, and so therefore they didn't want to cover them.
The ultimate insult on this is they're forced to rent these devices at like up to $100 a month. Yeah.
Yeah, I worked at a car dealership in the parts department, and like half the mechanics there had those in their own cars.
Did they ever say, "Come on over here and blow into this tube for me"?
No.
Can you drive with me home? Because it always stops halfway. I got to blow again. Oh.
One of them was actually very skilled electronically, though, and he just had his so that he could just get in and start his car and go.
So what exactly is this? Google states Q-Day is coming in 2029.
The quantums are coming for you.
It is the quantum day. This has been revised downward over the last few years. And they're stating that 2029 is the date that quantum computers will be able to break most encryption within a very short period of time. We're talking the latest elliptical curve encryption, So keys will be unsafe, and it is time to start preparing because 2029 is not that far away. But don't worry, the DoD and the U.S.
When they
government
say
is
quickly, it goes from you can't do it to instantaneous.
Yeah, because it doesn't attack algorithms in the same way that traditional computing does.
No, it
But
doesn't.
I was just going to add that the U.S. government is, don't worry, they're targeting like a 2030, 2031 timeframe. So they're going to be like a year late or a year too late. Yep. So that's, I mean, that's fine, I guess.
Well, I mean, in a way, it is because we've already got the solution to it, which is essentially self-destructing keys, where if it's intercepted along the way, it just immediately destroys itself. You need a quantum computer to be able to encrypt things that way, but don't worry, I'm sure they'll be cheap in no time at all.
I do have to add that there are algorithms that will be protected from the quantum computing attack.
For how long?
TLS 1.3 was developed for a lot of the quantum stuff, and I know that we looked at quantum hardening, but if you look at actual quantum computers, how quickly those CPUs just stop working because of just the physics behind it, and how things can just one little switch, one little flip, and it just doesn't work anymore. I mean, it's. I think 2029.
You think humans break up for weird reasons?
Yeah, no.
Quantum entanglements.
And I mean, another aspect of whole quantum computing is just the software side of interpreting what this CPU is doing. I mean, the ideas are all there, but the implementations are just. I think it's way too optimistic to say that quantum computing. It's like saying fusion is 20 years ahead. I remember in the late 80s, fusion is 20 years from now.
Josh, they've been saying that for 40 years. For 40 years.
20 years.
Fusion is always 20 years from now.
And I think quantum computing is, effective, long-term, stable quantum computing is still a ways off. So I'm not trying to, say, hey, the sky's not falling, because there are other reasons that the sky is falling. But this one has always just been baffling to me, having, read a little bit more deeply into, what goes on in quantum computing and what they've been able to do, and what actual positive, effective things that they've been able to do with it. It's been so theoretical. Unless somebody knows differently than me.
Here's a funny story, Josh. As part of this this article, it actually states that Google used to think differently as well. And they revised it recently, very suddenly, downward, and they will not tell people why. End of story. What do you think that might mean?
Are you saying DARPA made a big breakthrough and they don't want to tell anybody about it?
I mean, do you think it's possible? I mean, that's that they have made a breakthrough on removing the fuzziness from the computing angle on quantum computing, because the error rate is extremely high. I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. They won't tell people why.
Well, I don't tell people why I no longer wear, adult diapers, but we're not going there. Info Stealer, Moss, Void Stealer can get Chrome Master Encryption key.
Using an interesting technique that allows the hacked computer, or actually by the system, to attach the Info Stealer as a debugger, and it sets breakpoints at the exact location once it does a couple of queries inside the memory space, exactly where the master encryption key will be briefly decrypted in memory.
You mean the one that not even you as the owner of the computer can access?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So info stealers are getting more and more clever, more sophisticated. Again, this one attaches to the threads as a debugger, sets breakpoints, freezes the program, extracts the plain text key, and then exfils your basically your password caches. The nice thing about this is it's completely cross-platform. It's OS independent.
And it
Yes,
works on
that's it.
Edge.
Yeah, it works on because it's Chromium, I guess.
But everyone's fine because no one uses it. So
The unfortunate thing about this is the mechanism behind this is basically malware as a service. So
Yep.
you're not even sure what they're going to be doing with your data or what it is they're really after right now. So what we're looking at here is just I don't want to say it's proof of concept because real data is being stolen, but this is marketed as a malware as a service. This mechanism.
So you don't need to know what you were doing. You just need to be able to pay the subscription fee.
Pretty much.
And Bob's your uncle.
Well,
Yeah.
that moves us on to the next bit. The dog barking outside my window. Discussed. No. Hackers have embedded malware into VS Code auto-run tasks. North Korea strikes again.
Yep.
Oh, yet another one.
Some of them are
these.
coming from in the office because you hired them because remote coders are a thing too.
So the most interesting part about this is kind of like the vector of infection. And what I mean by that is how sophisticated users, which is, I would say, typical VS Code user, they're not going after the office workers. These are engineers, programmers, developers, etc. Sometimes C-suite execs who still dabble in this sort of thing. The infection vector is through job interviews or task, like, hey, prove you can, do this task. Use your editor to, et cetera, et cetera. And they're giving them payloads to download to say, oh, go download this package, open it up, et cetera. And that's when you get hit. And you just because you're opening it in VS Code, and an extension gets added, and it basically takes away a lot of your exfils a lot of your data. But that's what I thought was more interesting. We're being attacked.
If you're really lucky, you haven't. And the problem is that if a lot of these places are obviously running Node.js and have installed a JSON addition to VS Code.
Oh, don't worry, it downloads it. If you're missing Node.js, it'll download it for you. Yeah,
it's a full service.
That's what makes this also cross-platform, I believe. It's going to download Node.js for you and get that installed and allow its payloads to run. It reaches out to a command and control server for additional downloads, etc. It's a stepping stool to a series of infections and exfiltration of your private data, passwords, and other malware.
Oh, and I think it launches every time you launch VS Code from then on.
Yeah,
on the targeted one.
So these are very convenient use cases for the malware authors, and sophisticated users are not used to defending themselves against this sort of thing, and that's why they've been
aren't logged in as
susceptible. Oh gosh, of course they are. They know what they're doing.
But
these users also don't know what is the salad fork. So talk about unsophisticated.
It is sad.
That's just bad upbringing.
It is.
They're using it for dessert. It's horrific. But before we go, I have to
wait a minute. Wait, hold on. What's a salad?
It's the green stuff that you eat around.
Oh, okay.
There you go. I have to mention that they've given this thing the wonderful name of Stoat Waffle.
Of course they have.
It's a good name. For a bad thing. You shouldn't give bad things good names, but I do really like Stoat Waffle.
Stoat Waffle. Speaking of Stoat Waffle, we are out of Insecurity Corner and onto gaming quick hits. Do we need more reasons to dump Windows for gaming? Gosh.
Yes, we do.
Ways.
Well, there's two big things. One is that those of you who have been, gaming on Linux for a while now are very, very familiar with Wine. And you've also probably installed Wine on your machine. The newest version, Wine 11, now has dumped the old F-Sync that's been used for forever, with NT Sync. And it's resulting in some minor performance games. For instance, Josh, you like Dirt 3, right?
Well, yeah, back in the day, sure. It's got a great soundtrack. Go ahead.
Would it change your experience if all of a sudden you were capped from 110 frames a second to 860?
Sure.
So yeah, if the game supports NT Sync, you see insane performance games or performance gains in your games. There's a quite a few list of them. You can sort of dig through the article that I linked to, or just go to the Wine support page, and it will tell you exactly which games support NT Sync, and it is growing as it is. But yeah, we're not talking like doubling frame rates. We're talking like 5 times, 10 times. So this is pretty huge. And on the other hand, if you don't like really playing with a officiated version of Linux, and you'd prefer to have most of the people curate it for yourself, SteamOS has a brand new release, 3.8.0, which oddly enough now supports Steam Deck. Not that you can buy any if you don't have one. A variety of other gaming handhelds, and a crap load of new PC hardware. So
Really?
Whereas before you were limited in your choices on your AMD processor or your Intel processor, significantly more are now being completely supported, and you can now play, if you want, with SteamOS. You can't play with it on a Steam machine because they're not for sale for some odd reason that we're looking into. I'm sure it's something obscure that's preventing it.
Memory.
Oh, right. Memory. I remember now. But the other thing is that they've upgraded to kernel version 616, and the desktop environment, which, you know, a lot of us prefer, has dumped X11 in favor of Wayland. So the new KDE Plasma desktop is going to run a lot better, like way, way better. Unless you're an X11 fan, in which case, you know, just start screaming in the comments. We'll ignore you. So, yeah, 2 bigger reasons for Windows to be a little bit upset, for Redmond to be, why is everyone leaving us? This is
Jeremy,
strange.
I prefer Sun View, actually, so.
Yeah, well, you're probably also building your own, and why
X11
would you?
was
Like,
way
seriously,
too advanced. Way too advanced. The funny thing is the PDF rendering techniques were actually adopted by macOS, and they actually made it work. Oh no!
Yeah, but it's PDF,
Strange.
so they're just
Never mind.
horrible as it is.
You know what? If you liked Apple so much, why don't you just marry it?
Okay, I will.
Hey, Apple IIes can now run modern MS-DOS stuff.
I saw that with a 88 Copo card.
I think Tim Cook has already taken. Sorry, Brett.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Aw.
And some bummer news, you know, and outside of insecurity corner, Epic Games is going to cut more than 1,000 jobs as Fortnite usage falls. So Tim sent out a letter. It was probably one of the more straightforward and no BS type letters for mass layoffs, and 1,000 people's a lot for Epic Games. I mean, it's not a huge entity, so this is going to hurt a lot of folks that work with it. But apparently, they're saving around $500 million a year with the changes that they're made and the cutting of 1,000 plus jobs. So it's interesting world we're living in. They're trying to kind of get back on a different horse. Fortnite's popularity may be fading, even though that they do a lot in terms of content quarterly with that title. Eventually people get bored of things. Not Jeremy. He never gets bored of anything. But anyway, it's a bummer.
I'm just upset that you refer to them as whores.
Sure.
Even though they are.
Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, bummer for all those folks, and there are others out there like Pearl Abyss may be hiring. Their Crimson Desert has sold something like 3 million copies so far. So,
And actually,
Anyone
we'll
tried
have
it?
Arc support after all. By the way, just
Yes, they
eventually,
will.
yeah.
Oh, they've.
Yes.
they had to reverse course on that.
They went
Yeah.
back on it.
I mean,
Can I
I can
offer-
understand not optimized, but
Right.
sorry if you're
Not
not
working?
working. We just don't like you.
That doesn't make any
Go
sense.
play Arc Raiders.
Well, that's the majority of our news stuff. So, of course, that means that you all get to be exposed in the best way possible to our picks of the week. And I'm going to start off. Going off from last week's pick, this is really an outstanding value. Not everybody needs a 1,000-watt power supply. No, the ASRock 850-watt version of this is only $80. It is inexpensive for what you get. And again, if you don't have a 5090, why do you need 1,000-watt? So, 100% Japanese capacitors, dual color PCI 5.1, and solid fan, everything. It's all good. It's a great, they don't produce it themselves, but they spec'd out a really mean power supply, and it is super affordable. I mean, that price point, you see 650 watts from like Corsair. So, Jeremy, moving along.
I get emails, a lot of emails. And this one was from a Kickstarter that just came out of the blue, but it amuses me enough that I need to talk about it. And considering the price of home stereos right now, I mean, it looks expensive to me, but at the same time, it is kind of within the price range of a lot of other components. It is a Ghetto Blaster with dual cassettes and a CD player and Bluetooth. This is crazy, and I love the idea behind it. Because
How many D batteries does it take?
it has a swappable Li-ion battery,
Mm-hmm.
a 15-hour lithium battery, which apparently you can pop out and put in a new one when you forget to recharge it, because that's tradition. It's got AM and FM and shortwave radio. It has all of the things that we grew up with, and it looks ridiculous on your shoulder. It's got everything you'd want. It's $650 American.
Whoa.
That's a lot of money. But at the same time, you scroll down, you got to show the picture of the guy with it on his shoulder. It will amuse people of a certain age, but the vast majority of our listeners may not remember this.
Oh my gosh.
But
It's huge.
That thing is
was
huge.
a thing.
There are people who are deaf in one ear because of boomboxes.
Yes, there are, and now we can raise a new generation of them.
I was going to say,
270 watts.
some of those old boom boxes, especially on batteries, they might have been doing like 2.5 to 5 watts per channel. This thing it claims 270 watts, and with Class
Now,
D,
I'm sure they're exaggerating a bit.
I don't
but
know, that might be peak, but still, with Class D amplifiers and a lithium battery, they could be putting out enough to deafen this guy right here.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm. If I had the money lying around, I would buy this in an instant.
My 17-year-old self on the basketball court behind my house would be loving that, and my neighbors would be hating it. Because, blasting Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me, not popular at the time with anybody over 40.
Well, yeah, you should have been playing Love in the Elevator.
No,
Josh, I'm very
They're
proud-
more about the Porgy and Bess smooching on the escalator. But moving along.
Okay.
Brett.
Josh, I'm very proud that you can admit that you once listened to Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Yes, well,
It's good.
Who has
It's good
not?
we could admit our mistakes.
Yes.
He had a mania.
So I had a pick this week, and I like a nice computer case every now and then. I know people aren't building so many computers, but maybe this might entice you to maybe move some of the old ITX gear over to something very weird. It's from Cooler Master. It's called the Sneaker X ITX PC case.
What?
It is shaped like a sneaker. That is a real shock on the outside, and I'm talking about shock absorber on the outside.
Are they starting like a Voltron?
This is like the
You get
first
two of these,
piece
and then
of
they'll
an
have leg
entire
ones.
Voltron. Yeah, this is a very expensive case. The retail on this is $700, but Woot has got it right now for $399. And Sebastian, if you click the next link over, so you can see that you can get them, you can get it fully loaded at Amazon for $1,500 with an i5 14600K.
Would you call any system featuring an RTX 4060 Ti fully loaded? Really?
Somewhat loaded.
Okay, thank you.
And an RTX 4060 with 32 gig though, and a 2 terabyte NVMe, which is no, that's not cheap nowadays.
No, that's.
I think there's a couple of pictures.
32 gigs. Yeah, the 32 gigs of DDR5 are a quarter of the price value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the case itself comes with cooling, so it's got like a sizable cooler on it that's very AI generated.
Now, I assume this will fit a
least
full ATX case, right? Or
it's an ITX.
motherboard?
It's an ITX case. ITX freaking case. But it's just, I'm looking at this going like, you've got to be kidding. They're not kidding. This is for real. Yeah. I like finding the weird stuff.
Kidding.
I like finding the odd stuff occasionally.
You've done well.
Thank you.
All right. Kent, take us away from the insanity.
On a positive note, a 2 terabyte Gen 5 NVMe SSD for not an outrageous price.
Oh.
$254.59. Gen 5. It's not their top end P710, but still, that's probably about the best deal I've seen on an SSD in months. So, yep. And it's available and in stock right now.
Not horrific, which is what my wife told me in the chapel when we got married. But anyway, Sebastian, you have a pick.
Yes, I've been spending most of my spare time moving things around lately, and I have to say, the investment I made in this Milwaukee dual-handle hand truck with a 1,000.
How was that pronounced in Algonquin?
I don't know. Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Which is Algonquin for the good.
This is
land.
made in the USA, Josh. It says it right on there in that sticker. That steel frame made in the USA. This thing is heavy. It's got those.
It's 1,000 pounds, so you can haul your wife around.
It's got that.
I don't think that's the reason.
Yeah, your mom is so fat, you had to get that Milwaukee 1,000-pound hand truck just to move her around.
I see it's got the nice extended stair slider on the
It does. See, I was looking for one that had that that pole, that tubular construction in the back there. So yeah, you can move a lot of shit with this thing, I've learned. So
yeah, I bet.
It's amazing.
Oddly enough, as a proud owner of that exact hand truck, or dolly if you prefer, it's heavy, it's hefty.
But because of those
it works
rails,
much better when you replace. Oh yeah, no, those rails are brilliant.
Yeah. Yes,
I mean they're not necessarily classed as non-marking, but they certainly work very well. No. But I replaced the wheels on it with solid foam core ones. Even better.
Oh, okay.
Because the weight of it does actually it's a little hard on the inner tubes. Let's put it.
Well, this doesn't have inner tubes. This one has those solid.
Oh, so you got the solid core as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got the one. The original ones had the inner tubes. I replaced them with the solid foam.
Wait, is that plastic hub though?
You can't have everything for
It's non-rust.
$120.
Well, not for that price anymore.
Jeremy, in Canada, are Milwaukee tools called Regina?
No, they're just called imported. They don't come from the city that rhymes with fun.
Well, it is the capital city of Saskatchewan.
It's true. I'm impressed.
So
Most people think that's
Vancouver
Saskatoon.
Canucks. Anyway, yeah. You know what? That is our show. And it's been a pleasure being your host for this evening. And I feel bad for Sebastian. But sometimes it's nice to break out of the groove. You've been in a groove for ages and you just don't move. I mean, you move forward, but it may not be fun. The scenery doesn't change. It's like being the second dog in the dog sled team. Except fewer dingleberries, we hope. But we appreciate you guys showing up. And thank you for joining us for what was majorly a depressing thing. But hey, at least Intel is back with something that costs less and performs better than they had before. So, hip hip hooray. And with that, good night.